want to give you a little brief look at the agenda. I guess let's roll that way. Is that working? So we're going to do about 15-minute intros, and then we're going to jump into our panel. So with that, I'm going to give the stage now to Leila Amirsadeghi, who's going to introduce Onedome Global and the garden to you. So please come up, Leila. She is our location sponsor for the event tonight, and thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
Thanks for having us. Well, hi everyone. Welcome to Onedome. I'm Midha. I'm one of the co-founders here and the Chief Marketing Officer of Onedome. We're very excited to have you over here, especially given the VRARA and what we're doing with the Unreal Garden. So Onedome is we are a immersive entertainment and media company, and we use creativity to inspire collaboration, connection, and community by curating interactive arts and immersive entertainment. And we've got two experiences. So Onedome is the first of many permanent locations. One of the experiences, which is opening at the end of this week, is called Liminal, and that will be 14 immersive rooms, not headset-based. This is pure digital, responsive, adaptive technologies that do not use a HOD. And then, of course, the Unreal Garden, which is a mixed reality experience. And by mixed reality, we're actually blending multiple layers of reality. So we use the physical. So you'll see with the Unreal Garden that layer is a forest with rocks and waterfalls and rivers and all sorts of things that make you feel like you're actually in the forest. And then we add a layer of sound, both ambisonic as well as local to device, that triggers based on the content that you're activating. And then we use projections to bring the life to space and space to the life to the space to life. And then we use AR in two forms, both environmentally as flora and fauna. And in the case of the Unreal Garden, we curated an art exhibit. So it's actually 8 fine art pieces that we've translated into 3D, some of which were originally 3-dimensional, and some of which are everything from oil on canvas to pencil sketches that we've been able to evolve into AR. And part of that is really working with the artists. We wanted to be able to bring life and movement that was intended with an art piece that normally is an inanimate object that you might not sense that movement with. So we were able to bring that to life with the Unreal Garden. So with that, welcome to the space.
Thank you so much. That's great. So we are now, I want to also call up to the stage Kallmeyer, who's the CEO of Enklu. He's one of our sponsors this evening, and we are so grateful and happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. First, I'd like to thank the VRARA Association and Onedome, our partner in this amazing immersive mixed reality journey. Before I start, quick show of hands. How many people tried the Unreal Garden? Okay. How many people have done work in ARVR before? I'm hoping to see all that. Okay. How many are spectators here because they saw shiny lights? All right, well, I'm here because I'm a recovering game developer. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the game development industry, but I found myself 2 years ago amidst another project that I was working long hours for that I didn't feel connected with. I didn't feel like I was making a positive impact in the world. And when I put on the HoloLens, I saw more than just new technology. I saw a new method of storytelling, one in which we could share with our friends and family and really expand the depth of imagination. So that's why I'm here today. I'm excited to have you all here today. I'm excited to be for the panel and for VRARA Association. Thank you again for putting this on, especially in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. So we have another sponsor this evening that is very special to me personally, and it is the Robert Bosch Foundation Alumni Association. Has anyone heard of the RBFAA here? Anybody? Well, maybe some of the alumni who are here this evening. And so I'm actually also an alumna of the Robert Bosch Foundation Fellowship Program, and it's a year-long professional exchange program that takes you from the US to Germany to work in your field. And it's a fellowship program that's been going on for over 30 years. It actually will continue for 2 more years, and it has been an incredible part of my life, and so I'm really happy to be able to share a little bit about it with you, because I would like to encourage you to check it out. One of the things that I did also earlier this year that was also sponsored by the Robert Bosch Foundation. So this is, Bosch, washers, dryers, spark plugs. This man, Robert Bosch, was an amazing innovator himself. He worked with Thomas Edison. He was inspired by that over 150 years ago, and imagined this, not fellowship program, but an exchange. And I think of that as also sort of inspiration for what we do as a community in the VRARA Association, is that we exchange ideas. And I was fortunate to be able to bring, with a grant from the RVFA, I was able to bring 10 non-VR and AR professionals to AWE this year with the generosity of the Bosch Foundation. We have Rashida Bob is here this evening. She was on this fellowship program. And so I really think about sort of inversing the model. So taking, we're all in the VR and AR community, XR, MR, and I'm really excited to be having the opportunity to be ambassadors and to sort of flip it, and for us to go out into the world, into industry, into verticals, and to share these experiences to help accelerate the marketplace, and that's what motivates me. So thank you to the RVFAA for their sponsorship. We also have some event partners this evening. Mike Olman, who's the co-president of the association, is not here. He's on the East Coast, but he is also the founder of Artillery Intelligence and AR Insider, and you'll all be receiving one of his reports. So please check that out. He does amazing research, and it will help you in your business. I refer to it often. Also, we have Tim Aldridge doing AV. Thank you, Tim. He's an amazing, talented web developer himself and artist. So excited for him to be here. And Hannah Luxembourg-Tono is here also assisting. Where's Hannah? She's all over. She's helping. That's what she is. She's right there. So thank you, Hannah. And Olman Media, I just want to introduce everybody to, actually, Mike and I are working and collaborating as the VRARA Association, but we also have an entity that's called Olman Media. It's a new media and events company, and it'll be basically focusing on spatial computing as well. So look for some events next year as well with Olman Media. To be announced, more with that, more to come. And then also Jerome Valencia, he's one of our members, and he's also founder of Northbound Films. He'll be making an incredible marketing video for us this evening. So Jerome, thank you. I'm not sure where he is, but he's around. If you see a guy holding a camera, a couple guys, that's who's helping us out. So the VRARA Association, just a few quick highlights of what we do. We are a global association, and we have chapters in over 50 cities around the world. That means we have perhaps the widest footprint of any VR affiliation or professional association globally. And we have events in many cities, San Francisco. We've also just opened up a Silicon Valley chapter, and Jeremy Schreiber is here, who's the president of that chapter. If you see him, I don't know where Jeremy is right now, he's probably checking people in, but please do say hi and welcome him. So we'll be having events in San Francisco and also hopefully more in the South Bay this year to come, so in the new year. We have things like our ecosystem report and things like that, white papers, all sorts of research, and committees. We also have, I'm lucky to have with the VRARA San Francisco chapter, a leadership team and opportunities for people to get involved and to have a role in shaping the community and helping us to grow it. So just want to say thank you to my team. They're out and about, but thanks to everybody who's helped make this evening happen, which takes a lot of work from everybody. Quick note on membership exactly. So we have the over 20 industry committees. Those are things like a healthcare committee and aerospace, training, drivers here and there. You know, there's somebody that will be on the committee for training and education. Those are the kinds of things that we like to do, is enable leaders to get in touch with each other and to shape the future. Some of our members. If you're a member, could you please raise your hand so I can see who's here tonight? Thank you. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to all of you. You make this happen. And just looking back on 2018, I want to say this is our last event of the year, but there have been some incredible events along the way. Everything from AR Kit weekend in January. We have had events at AWE. We have the VRARA Global Summit in Vancouver this year. We'll have another one in Lisbon next year, mid-year. So just globally and locally, so many ways to get involved. So, with that, all right, everybody. So yeah, this is our amazing expert panel. Here, I'm going to do this. Mike and I said we're going to do it Phil Donahue style. Not everybody knows who Phil Donahue is, so. But basically, I'm just going to sort of be here to support the panel. But we can start with some intros. So Ray, please kick off.
In addition to being the CEO of Enklu, which is the platform that powers the Unreal Garden, I'm also a featured artist in the Unreal Garden. I started making shaders when I was a kid, got involved with ARVR right after the games industry. I find myself continually impressed by what the industry pumps out, inspired by the community every day, and I'm just happy to be here.
Hi again. So prior to Ondedome, I worked in the advertising space for a good chunk of the last 20 years. Started out in technology, evolved into marketing, and then switched over to the entertainment space before I joined the Ben and Mary Ondedomes, and here we are.
Hi folks, my name is Jane Fang and I work for Microsoft on the HoloLens and Mixed Reality team, and my team is basically boots on the ground for the San Francisco Bay Area. Think of us as the local engagement vehicle for developers and commercial partners, venture capital groups, and all the various stakeholders that you can find in this collective community that we have here.
Hi everybody, my name is Anjney. I'm the co-founder of Ubiquity 6. We are a person startup a few blocks down from here. We're working on using computer vision to bring people together in real world spaces like this one. And we were founded a year and a half ago. Before that, I was an investor at a venture capital firm called Kallmeyer Perkins, where we invested in ARVR and computer vision companies at the seed stage in a fund called KPCB Edge.
Hi, I'm LaMeyer. I'm an angel investor in spatial computing and artificial intelligence. I'm also an advisor and a mentor for Boost VC, ARVR Academy, Women in XR. I try to make at least 50% of the investments that I make have some female founder. I'm really excited about this space.
Okay, our first question. So we're going to do more of a keeping it open style tonight, and the burning question is, I want to know what's the biggest thing that you learned in this industry in 2018. Maybe we'll go reverse order. Maybe you guys can jump in if you're inspired. Kick it off.
Okay, the biggest thing that I learned a lot in 2018. I worked with 60 and made persistence happen, and that was awesome. And lots of other things, but Magic Leap occurred, and I explored that for a while, and what I didn't realize until I tried it and spent some time with it, and particularly with Tonandi, which is the Sigur Rós music experience, what I didn't realize is how immersive mixed and augmented reality could be, right? I knew virtual reality could be immersive. It can also not be immersive, as we all know. But on the scale of immersion, 0 being non-immersive at all and 10 being the most immersive VR experience we've ever had, I thought AR maybe would get us to 5. Because you're always seeing, in mixed reality, because you're always seeing reality. So I was like, it just won't be that immersive. But the Tonandi experience got me to like an 8, and that kind of blew me away. And so now I think I have a completely newfound appreciation for mixed and augmented reality.
I'm going to do a +1 to you, and just basically say that was my conclusion as well this year. The only addition I would add is shared AR in particular was probably the big surprise for us and our team. It wasn't, and when I mean shared AR, I mean it was. It wasn't as much the depth of gameplay or graphics that mattered more to people or created immersion. It was the real-time nature of being able to edit a space with other people through a camera. We learned that earlier this year at the SF MoMA, where Ubiquity 6 put on an experience for 150 concurrent users, where people were able to paint the ceiling of the museum together is this public atrium lobby and with their own phones. And it was a toy experience, we thought, right? People could place little voxels, single-colored blocks, or take a selfie and put it up, and we're like, this is cool, it proves out persistence and real-time networking. But the average session length ended up being 45 minutes, and these were 18 to 65-year-olds with no interest in gaming or ARVR, just going, this is cool, this is magical, I can put something here in space, and everybody else has to deal with the fact that I put this sculpture up here. And that was really immersive, and that was really surprising for us.
Slightly different learning flavor. So I've only been at Microsoft for about 14 months. I was brought on to build their San Francisco HoloLens presence. And before that, I was at a 40-person virtual reality startup in Redmond City. So my learning was more associated with what's it like to build VRARA product, a tiny startup, and then at Microsoft. Anyone have any idea how many people at Microsoft work on the product team for HoloLens, mixed reality? 1,500 developers, designers, PMs. Most of them are sitting in Redmond. And I don't know how close you guys follow Microsoft, but 2008 was the year of the reorg at Microsoft. There was a massive reorg where a lot of teams changed, a lot of personnel changes, a lot of mandates changed. Good thing is there's still 1,500 people working on the HoloLens mixed reality team. But it was definitely a great learning from like just remembering how to be scrappy in a startup's way, and like always rebuilding alliances, always thinking 2 steps ahead, and just understanding how an organization like that can be almost as dynamic and change as quickly as some of the startup days I had.
On my side, it was more the audience, and just observing. In the last couple of years, having been in entertainment and jumped into this space over a year ago, just watching a significant shift in audience behavior from traditional entertainment and what you might consider weekend activity from Olman cinema to this influx of immersive entertainment and what's being called selfie entertainment, Museum of Ice Cream, Candid Tokyo, and things like that, which to many in this room, including myself, no offense to the inventors, really don't provide much interactivity or immersion, but do end up selling out and doing very, very well. So the audience demand and the nature of entertainment shifting, I think, has been the biggest learning curve.
Well, 2018 was the year we went from concept to launch again with Garden, and I think the biggest takeaway I would offer is that creative immersive reality requires the separate disciplines of cinematics, sound, lighting, programming, events management, operations, all the things that a major Hollywood set needs, and all the things that Coachella needs, and all the things that a live software development studio needs. So it's complex, and it often requires us to adopt new communication styles so we can understand each other, not only in what we're trying to do, but the way we accomplish it. And then following on that, when you do bring that many people into the room together, really amazing things can happen when we just take a step back and let their creative channel flow.
Amazing. I love that we have an actual number. It was 45 minutes. Is that right, Anjney? Wow. So that's super exciting. So our next question here, what's the biggest challenge you and the XR industry face going into 2019. So we're not looking back now, we're looking a little bit ahead into the future. And I just want to interject before the panel takes this one that I'm super excited about 2019. One of the reasons that I wanted these guys to be on this panel was because I felt like they really represented the super amazing trajectory of things that are taking off in space. Everything from, you know, like art and creative and, you know, the LBE and hardware and, you know, these spatial experiences and all the stuff that you're doing. So it's fantastic to everybody out here. So what's going to happen in 2019? What challenges are we going to face? It's a bright new year. And we answered this question a year ago, but I want to know, what are you guys thinking now? How do you feel? So maybe we'll go from the middle.
Yeah, sure. I think for the organization that I'm a part of, the hardest thing is trying to convince the rest of the, call it 1,500 other people who sit in Redmond to become just as customer obsessed as our team here in San Francisco, right? Like getting out there, going to hackathons, meeting with real customers. I think that's the drumbeat that we want to actually become habitual within the organization, right? So, and then once you get that feedback, actually making sure that feedback and actually changes the roadmap for the product, right? So I think as I look to my team, like it's good to get out and like do events like this. It's great to like, you know, write up trip reports and send them over alias distribution lists at Microsoft, but also it has to actually like, the feedback has to actually impact the roadmap. So that's kind of a big company, like, challenge for making sure that we actually are listening to our customers, being customer obsessed, and the product we build actually solves those points. If I were to put my, startup hat back on, it's probably funding, right? Like, it's like everyone's concerned about runway and like making it through, right? So I will comment more on that because that's not my seat today, but like, a lot of the startups I meet with, it's often, funding.
Yeah, so speaking of funding, I think the biggest challenge that we have is to make sure that as a new technology, as an emerging technology, that we're really solving the problems for the industries in a way that no one else can solve them. So,
everyone's awake now.
yeah, so that's what I would say. It's just not focusing on technology. Here we go. Focusing on solving problems for industries. So how can we make sure that we're looking outward and talking to the industries and solving the problems that they need? Because spatial computing will be able to solve problems that can't be done with screens in 2 dimensions. And so how do we continue to think that way?
Building on the point of funding, we're in the privileged position to think what comes after funding. We just raised our Series B 2 months ago. We've raised $37.5 million in the last year, and the problem that comes after that is the building part. And for us, the challenge is definitely hiring and recruiting. We're a team of 30 folks. We plan to double that in the next 12 months across creative, design, engineering, computer vision, and that's hard because I think while there's a very talented group of people who care about this medium, like the people in this room, that group is still really small. And there's a lot of, there's some problems that are XR specific and that are new, and it's really exciting to work on them. And then some of them are just really hard, regular engineering problems, and they happen to do with infrastructure and cloud reconstruction and server and privacy and permissioning. And that stuff is less sexy, and finding really talented people and educating them about why this medium is going to be really massive is a constant challenge that at least I face. And part of that, I think, is an industry problem because XR is not really the point, right? Nobody really cares about augmented reality versus virtual reality versus mixed reality, pick your reality. They want to know, what does this do for me? And I think sometimes we get so focused on, but that wasn't really AR, it wasn't 6 degrees of freedom, or like that was 360 video, that was not VR, like that shit doesn't matter, right? And I think we get so focused on XR as a medium and what does that mean and defining it that we sometimes forget that by doing that, we're completely cutting off everybody else who's wondering, I'm an engineer I'm a talented engineer or a designer or a creative, and I want to make an impact in the world. How do I do that? What is the end use case? Am I working on telepresence? Am I working on retail? Am I working on education? And MR, ARVR might be my way there. And I know that's a pattern of problematic verbalization that I fall into all the time, and that's something we're doing at the company more in a more deliberate way to try to solve. So one thing you'll notice in none of our marketing materials do we say we're an augmented reality company. We say we're focused on bringing people together in real world spaces. Because that's something people want. They don't want to Netflix and chill at home. They want to get out and see the world and meet other people. Now that's a concrete value proposition. It's so easy to say. And I actually made that mistake early on the panel today. I said, we're working on computer vision to bring people together in real world spaces. Even that was a failure. Nobody cares about computer vision. That's just tech under the hood. So that's, I think, a real industry challenge and something we're struggling with.
I think I'd like to add to that. So similarly, what we do is to create connection between people. So we're using the immersive space and AR specifically, or mixed reality, to bring people together in a social environment. Humans are social beings, and technology's created this divide over the last few years where we've sort of disconnected from each other. And we believe that the conscious use of immersive tech, especially AR, where you are able to create eye contact, or at least be in a space with 25 other people, like the Unreal Garden, and have shared wow moments. So in that respect, I think, one of the challenges is ensuring that I'd love to see that the XR industry evolves towards more of a social shared experiences and less of the in-home, hidden behind the screen kind of experience. So I think that would be one. The other would very much be quality of experiences that come out. With any industry at the early stage, you get this sort of hockey stick of suddenly there's a ton of immersive experiences that come out everywhere, and I think that sort of does end up diluting what the really good experiences are out there. So hopefully, there'll be sort of a high bar across the board.
I'm going to yes, but both of you on the consumer education front. I think as an industry, we've done a really great job of hyping up these technologies. And as an industry, we've done a horrible job of overhyping these technologies and setting consumer expectations a little bit beyond what's capable. And that does a disservice to all people doing amazing work, because when really cool products come out, instead of measuring against nothing, they're measuring against some vision that can't possibly be maintained. And I've seen that with a lot of major hardware launches and software launches. So I think one of the major challenges in 2019 is grounding these technologies in reality for what they really can do for people, which is really incredible and really can change people's lives as long as we communicate it effectively and we don't get too much influence.
I think we got some claps on that one. I think that, yeah. I think that really hits home with all of us, especially the creators who are, we're trying to make things in the now and make for the future, but we have to work with what we have, and we have to sell what we have, right? So amen to that. From now, I guess it's very similar to the last question, but I guess we're starting to look into our crystal balls a little bit. If we could look forward a year from now, maybe not just where will we be at this time next year, but where do you wish we would be at as well? So let's see. Yeah, got one.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that we're about at the product development life cycle for the Pokemon Go follow-ups that have been in development for 2 years to start launching. Harry Potter's coming out next year. There's a number of other major games coming out next year. I think it remains to be seen if it's going to change society, but I do think that we'll start to see geolocation-based mobile AR experiences return us to a daily adventure on a more regular basis.
So Alex Kipman, for those of you who don't know, is the inventor of the HoloLens, my ultimate boss, and he put out a LinkedIn post about the 3 trends that he's most excited about, and I will say they're consistent with the areas where I've seen investment at Microsoft with that same team. So one is mixed reality and AI as part of the grand reorg of Microsoft in 2018, we actually adopted 2 massive mixed reality teams that came out of Microsoft research. And the idea is like, they have done great research work, let's actually help them go commercial with some of this amazing stuff. So you can imagine the synergies there of infusing more AI into our mixed reality world and vice versa. The second trend is just AR plus VR, right? I think someone already mentioned it, the experience where you can have 2 folks collaborating, one with maybe a Samsung Odyssey, like that was the one over there, and another person with a HoloLens. And then thirdly is really immersive communication. Things like Microsoft's acquisition of AltSpace VR for social communication, more immersive communication. Those are the 3 trends that, from the top at Microsoft we are really bullish on.
So I think there's 3 things that happen by the end of next year. I agree with you that we're going to go through this Pokemon Go phase, clone phase, and I think by the end of next year we're already at fatigue, because I'm not sure that there's a ton of need, a consumer desire to play 40 different, reskins on a game mechanic that worked 2 years ago. And I think you're right. There's definitely a bunch that we know coming out, and a bunch more that probably haven't been announced yet. And what I'm excited about is that ARKit and ARCore would have been in production for 24 months. And that's roughly the time developers and creators who are actually pushing the limit on stuff start to be able to get their experiences and prototypes out to the world. So if I'm thinking, the first thing is I think there's fatigue for mobile location-based games, because Pokemon Go, Harry Potter, from what I can tell, and a bunch of these aren't really AR games, as you all know. They try to your GPS location. You can turn on the AR thing if you want something that's cool, but it's largely a gimmick. And I think what you start to see by the end of next year are really cool native AR first experiences where it's not somebody trying to shoehorn or slap on AR as an afterthought. I actually got my hands on really fast performance SLAM in 2017 March, and now I've had 2 years to actually work on something in production that people can start using, so it's the post-Pokemon Go world. I think the third thing that ends up happening is and it's an extension of that point, is the year of the mobile AR creator, because I think there's a ton of fantastic tooling that's coming on the market that various people have announced, including us, that allow people who aren't engineers, aren't game developers, aren't computer vision, multiplayer, and black magic wizards to be able to publish really cool, useful, valuable, shared, persistent experiences to real world spaces. And I'm pretty excited about that by the end of this time next year.
I'm going to stick with the theme of 3. I agree with you on mobile AR. I think we're going to see a lot in the coming year, and I'm really excited for it. I'm excited about the boring things. I'm excited about the things that are going to push the limit, but I want all of it to exist because we need to experiment and figure out what's going to work. I also think that there's going to be more of an integration with artificial intelligence, and particularly natural language processing, and let's say the words computer vision again. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And then third, on a virtual reality perspective, I think it'll be interesting to see as more mobile 6th degree of freedom headsets come out, if we'll get a resurgence in virtual reality.
Maria, I was having a hard time pulling up one. I think, by the end of next year, it would, a couple of places that I think Excel would be moving into. One is more being used more in education, but through a storytelling way. So ways of it should be fed in vegetables. So using entertainment as a means to inspire, and then secondarily, in a similar vein, to support. We've been playing with some notions of using biofeedback and other technologies within AR and immersive to change belief systems, sort of neuro-linguistic programming, and the ability to just have a quick sort of impact in experience and seed an idea that hopefully people will walk away from. So that's really a place that I think we're not far from. That was just 2.
So we have another question. So we are actually doing another crystal ball moment here. And now we're looking for just the crazy out-of-the-box predictions. One maybe for this next year, something that you think might happen, you're not sure. And then one for five or so years down the road. What's happening in 2025? Go right ahead, dive right in. Anybody got one for me? Got it? Yeah, Amy. All right.
Wild out of the box. I mean, it's not that wild, but in 2019, I think hearables are going to be huge. I think that we're going to look to audio to be that connector between mobile AR and smart glasses. And so I think we'll see a lot of different things happening in that space, both from Bose AR, hopefully from Apple, and all the other big phones.
I'm going to riff on that and say that's my 2025. I think we keep talking about glasses, and I think anybody who's actually worked in hardware knows that there's a lot of work that needs to happen before you have wearable displays in front of our eyes that are battery powered, that don't die every 45 minutes. So my 2025 prediction is more than 10 million pairs of glasses out in the world that have stereoscopic cameras, so one camera on each part of the rim of your glasses that's mapping the world for you and localizing you and positioning you very precisely. So a device that's in your pocket, like the compute unit you already have, has a very, very good understanding of where in the world you are. And with glasses being able to do things now like bone conduction, it will be very likely that you're getting real-time feedback based on very precise localization, right? So if it's indoor navigation, and you're at a store, being able to tell you, hey, there's something you're really going to like if you just look a few centimeters to your right and look at this rack. It turns out audio is so immersive that people can parse as much, if not more information sometimes from audio as opposed to visual. If you just look at the amount of information you're parsing from me right now or on a phone call, the brain over hundreds of years of evolution has gotten so good at parsing high throughput channels information from this single source, and yet we just ignore it. And so I think what you've already started to see is a few people who understand that secret on the market try to test that. Apple is one of those people with the AirPods already in 100 million AirPods in production. A lot of that groundwork is already laid, and people like Snapchat, I think, are pretty thoughtful about that, since they have a pair of fashionable glasses out there that have a camera on there. There's not real-time streaming happening, but actually we have all the technology we already need in 2019 to put that into production at mass scale with sub $200 prices by 2025. I think there's actually a ton of new invention work that has to happen between now and then to get displays. So I'm not very confident that we'll be walking out with minority report style displays in front of our eyes by 2025.
So Microsoft actually does have this amazing vision video that's I think on the HoloLens YouTube video for mixed reality, and I encourage you guys to check it out. It's basically a designer walking into an empty warehouse, and as she's moving holograms as she would lay out. It's like I think a Nike spoof brand, a Nike store. I think it's called Naifu or something. And she's there's all sorts of little tidbits there that were very intentional, like everything from the physics of being able to decide you just don't want this display and just splashing it away, or there's also an intelligent personal assistant that looks a lot like Big Hero 6 that follows her around and then is able to coordinate a meeting with folks from all around the world who are both shown in VR headsets and AR headsets and can all collaborate together. So I can't do the video justice, but the vision video actually does paint out kind of where we are intentionally trying to drive the product. We do actually, terrifyingly enough, have roadmaps that go out to 2025, and that talks about what HoloLens will look like and the rest of our technology. I'm unfortunately not here to talk about that, and I can't talk about that. So I can talk about what personally I think would be really cool. This actually just recently happened where Alex Kipman asked me to come present at our team all hands, and I actually had another commitment that week where I was like, can I do it in alt space? Can I do it in Skype? Can I can I do it remotely? And the answer was pretty much no. You have to be there in person. And I think what would be really cool, and I know folks are exploring this kind of stuff, is the actual, holoportation, the teleportation, which would allow me to go into some room and still be here in San Francisco and deliver that presentation on stage in Redmond and be photorealistic, not an avatar, be live, have my slides, and actually just save on that T&E budget and also just time. So that would be huge, and I know it would help me just because it recently came up and kind of threw a wrench in my own personal week plans.
I think for 2025, so what I'd like to see with this industry, differently to the motion picture business, how that evolved is that content is more ubiquitous and available and sourced, and something that I'm sure Ray can talk about as well here, is that it's not just in the hands of a few companies who are creating the content for all these experiences, but rather a few companies who provide the platforms for distribution of such content, but that the content creation is in the hands of anyone who really wants to get involved and has the tools available to them. And with companies like Enklu, building technologies that really facilitate the creation of immersive experiences at quite high quality just out of the box. I can see us being in a place where we're going to have an abundance of content and experiences to choose from of a high quality.
Thank you, and I'll follow with, I think that, in 2025 we'll see a further extension of the new open ecosystem models for emerging companies. I think if you look at, commits on GitHub or what's chic in the tech world right now, it's not closed ecosystems. I think that worked in previous generations, but in a close, decentralized, blockchain, conversation world, open ecosystems are the way to go. So I think that's going to really transform the way that new technologies take root and become popular. And then my kind of outlandish prediction is that the majority of revenue from consumer-facing XR technologies will be from digital hats and capes and microtransactions like boxes. I think that's a hugely underlooked segment that we see a lot of evidence for right now in the market. By 2025, whether or not we're all wearing glasses on our heads all the time, we will have access to them in the homes or in digital arcades, and people will be spending quite a bit to decorate themselves and look fancy for their friends.
Amazing. I love all the predictions. As I look back also and I think about what might happen in my mind, I go, God, think about LBE, think about the millions of people that are going to be going through these experiences. We're so fortunate to be here at Onedome and to see how this happens, how this works in reality. I just love it. I'm going to open it up to some questions from the audience, then we're going to do questions for a few more minutes, and then we're going to also continue our evening. Some folks will be able to get a tour if you signed up already. And so can I just get, is there anybody in the audience with a question, please? Yeah.
Hi. My question is around AR sharing particularly, and where do you see the most growth in that area immediately and then going into the future?
You should expect to see more from us in Q1 about that. I don't want to steal my team's thunder because we're obviously have a lot of so there's more to come, but I think I think we're a big believer in venues like this one, the one we're sitting in, being the first point of interaction for shared AR. It's something people understand. People understand the consumer behavior. I'm going out at this moment in time for a particular time session of something I'm sharing with other human beings that I might share a city with, or a space like a venue like this one. But the key bridge there, in our belief, is being able to have that first interaction point in a public space and then take it into a user-generated space. So being able to say, I painted the ceiling of the SFMOA with 150 other people, and I really enjoy doing that, and I'm going to go be able to do that in my living room, my dorm room, my office is really important. And from a technology standpoint, that means being able to map a large public space like this one, but then also allowing users to map their own private spaces to get a real-time shared interactive experience. And so we're focused on making sure you can do that very easily.
What do you see the ARVR?
So I think you had a follow-up comment, was it?
Not many follow-ups, but I'll just keep it to one. one of the biggest UX problems in AR is discoverability, and I think music being one way to bring people in. So I think that's what you're alluding to, into a visual experience as well as auditory. What UX challenges or solutions do you see in trying to bring people into an experience that that's so useful?
Oh, we could go for so long about that. We may want to take that offline. Yeah.
What do you see the ARVR industry doing with schools and students to get them excited about this medium in the next few years, in terms of helping them learn about it, get access to the technology and so on?
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in here. SNHU, for example, is using augmented reality to share STEM curriculum. And it turns out that augmented and virtual reality are great tools for sharing abstract concepts, or concepts which are traditionally difficult for people to understand because they might be dealing with something very small, like an atom, or something very large, like a galaxy. So MIT has a great study on geospatial learning using our context to help us keep information relevant. They had people go around a tour on a school campus and use rote memorization to associate names with specific locations on the campus. And I don't know the specifics, but the data suggested that years after this particular study, people could still remember the individual items that they were trying to remember because they had associated with a particular place and time. I've seen other examples of people using really cool technology for kids to get them outdoors learning about nature, because you have the same concepts that Pokemon Go is using to get people outdoors. Great to get kids on requesting that. So incorporating aspects of gamification is another really exciting aspect.
Does Microsoft specifically have a program?
Yeah, I was just about to talk to it. Microsoft's a huge company, and there are a lot of different teams that touch upon the student audience. So I can just name out a few examples. My team, because we are trying to be that local engagement vehicle, we actually hosted a hackathon with XR-EDU, a education group, and there was actually a really cool weekend jam session where we had literally like middle school students coding with teachers to validate solutions for the classroom after that weekend jam session. So some really interesting things came out of that, including like, prototype asks for how do you learn how to balance chemical equations using mixed reality, because gosh, when you write it down on paper, it's very different from when you visualize it in mixed reality. Secondly, we have a student developer team that just makes sure that they show up at all the big major academic hackathons. So things like the one that MIT hosts, UW up in Seattle just hosted a big hackathon. Berkeley has one, Stanford has one as well. So just making sure we show up with some presence at each of those major moments. We can't cover everything, but making sure like some of the big pulse moments are covered. And then lastly, my team actually just played a little bit of Santa Claus, and for about I think 40 institutions, we seeded mixed reality devices. So not HoloLenses, but like the immersive headsets, Acer, more traditional VR headsets. We seeded quite a lot of them. It was a colleague of mine who ran that program, but that is all about making sure that students at a young age get access on these campuses to the devices.
Great. Nicole, is there another follow-up question to that? I think it's really important. I just did a talk at VRX on spatial learning for AR and the neurological effects. So we're activating the hippocampus, which is what lights up when a rat learns a maze, for example. If we experience it in VR, there's just, we keep digging and there is like more and more and more. I was curious for the panel, in addition to spatial learning, which is very different than visual learning or auditory learning or kinesthetic learning, is there any other kind of superpower? You talked a little bit about going beyond the 2D screen, so let's look for use cases that can't be solved with 2D. I was just curious, spatial learning is just an amazing thing. What else is really amazing? Because that'll help us with these predictions for 2019, 2021.
I have an answer that's somewhat unexpected from our building of the Emerald Garden. I'd say social learning. So we have a very specific gesture in the HoloLens to bloom out of the application. I have to be very careful not to use that gesture anywhere near inside here, because if I do, every single person in there is going to try to bloom out and cancel the application.
Well, no, but that's social because like you can totally like dish your friends.
Right. But so the context of seeing another human do another thing in AR/VR to help us uptake information, I think is going to be huge.
Okay, so social learning,
Yeah.
I mean, from a spatial perspective, you think of something like chemical models, right? Anything that's three-dimensional and that. But the other one that I think that's really interesting that isn't necessarily spatial, but it's triggering audio is language learning, and having that when someone that has a hard time focusing needs to read, they'll read a book and they'll listen to it at the same time. So I think that it'll be interesting to see how three-dimensional and spatial learning can impact language.
Yeah, so essentially you've got an abstract word or phrase, and then it is
it's being reinforced both visually and audio.
Well, it also could be instantiated like an actual 3D goal.
Yeah. I don't know, but it could be interesting. Okay,
just one more, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, one thing that we've seen with the Unroll Garden very, very early, and something we hope to see more of as we add content is, I'm not sure if this is a term, but really emotional learning. So when you make an emotional connection to, so in this case, nature, and understanding how something comes to be or how it comes to life, there's a very different connection you walk away from. So I think that emotional connection is a big part of the learning experience.
You could give yourself these artistic perhaps and learn different things.
Okay, so we've got one more question here in the back.
Okay, I just wanted to know if you're all well-established in careers, but for somebody who's like looking to start out, maybe coming out of high school or college, and wanting to get into AR, XR stuff, like what should they be doing?
Yeah, so for someone who started in the games industry right out of high school and then went to community college before I transferred to a lower tier state school, I would say the best thing anyone who's excited about entering the industry is try doing things. Start with a small Unity project, start with a small Unreal project, show it to your friends and family. They might hate it, they might love it. Take the feedback in stride and try again. Put yourself out there, go to meetups like this, talk to people who've done it before, and find something that really excites you about it too. It's a very challenging industry to get into. There's a lot of competition because it's really fun to work on this stuff when it's good. It's so fun when it's not. But there's a lot of people that want this same sort of work, so you're going to have to really believe in what you're doing to make it through a lot of the ringers. Just remember to take breaks.
Yeah, there's a lot of support groups out there, hackathons, as you mentioned. ARVR Academy has online Unity education. Go there. Listen to Voices of VR podcast. I plug it every time I think I'm on stage, but Can't Buy has just an amazing amount of information about the virtual and augmented reality space.
This is a question I get asked all the time, and depending on which level, no matter which level you're at, I think the thing you said, which is just make something, it holds true. I don't come from a traditional games programming background or a game program background, which is where most of the industry is today, because that's the skill set that you needed for 3D content creation, or that was the industry that most predictably paid 3D content creation. But making the number of tools that are available now to people with no training is reducing the excuse for not being able to make anything first. And then the second is to just actually join a team or a startup that's working on a project. I'm obviously going to say we're hiring across the board, and we take everybody from interns to really talented folks who've never done AR but want to get into the space. And there's a number of other companies out there, and I think the best way to be a prepared mind is to be as close to possible other prepared minds, and that can often come by just joining a team that's working on it.
I would plus on what everyone else said, but hackathons for sure. Like we just recently, Amy helped out with a Women in AI and MR hackathon that was hosted at the Microsoft Reactor down the street, and literally that was a moment where we convinced 20 full-time, really rock star women and allies from Redmond to fly down and spend their weekend mentoring. And that was like, outside of, getting technical assistance, guess what they were talking about? What it was like to work at Microsoft, how to apply, resume reviews, informal stuff, career chats. Like, so things like hackathons and meetups, definitely, because we actually do approach, like the meetups we host at the reactor down the street, we really do start with like, what does this actual community want to learn? Not so much let's just hang out, but like actually what do you want to learn, and we'll actually program for that.
Thank you so much. So actually, I think Solomon is the great person to ask that question, because he's actually works with XR Marin. And I don't know if you all know XR Marin, they're one of our members. And they actually graduate over 350 XR certified high school students every year? Yeah. So there's a huge wealth of people coming up. So I think if we do fast forward to end of 2019, 2025, we're going to be bringing a lot of new people into the ranks. And I think that a great takeaway is open door policy, welcome everyone, because we're all trying to do something really big here. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to our panelists.